Julie Charles wears many hats and is an active community member. She has been a big sister at the Basseterre High School, volunteer facilitator for the Ministry of Gender Affairs and Social Development. She's driven, caring, and professional. Through her community engagements, Julie personifies her motto: if I can save one child from a life of hardship and crime, or assist a parent in better communicating with his or her child, then I would have fulfilled my purpose. Meet the passionate activist and radio host of Julie, Freedom FM 106.5, Mind, Body, and Soul. Julie, it is a pleasure to have you here with us on GMSKN.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, you are so welcome. Honor indeed is mine. So tell us about the Big Sister program. What is it, and does it still exist?
All right. So in 2000, I had just gotten back from college, and I decided, you know what? I think I want to pair young professional women with troubled girls, because during that teen years, it's a little of a transition for a lot of young women here. They don't have the outlet to speak to persons. So I figure if they meet somebody who's professional, who's driven, who's ambitious, that they can look up to this particular person and mesh. They can talk, they can interact, they can themselves find the ambition that they need. And so I started it back in 2000. Unfortunately, some of my big sisters went away to pursue further education. And I myself got a little busy. So the program did a nosedive. But it started me into loving giving back to my community and doing more social activity.
Okay, well, that's good to know. In terms of that program specifically, do you think it will be revitalized?
Wow, I would love to. Honestly, I would love to. I will put that on my to-do list.
Great.
Let me put a star next to it.
All right, so let's talk about your community work and the fact that, of course, your education, you have a bachelor's in business, so let's talk about that. Bachelor's in business administration, forgive me, consumer behavior, very engaging and interesting, by the way, marketing, and a master's in marketing and human resources. Okay, so you're very busy, very accomplished. That's the thing. It's like you're busy, you're accomplished, and you still have time to give back.
Yes.
Is there a way that you utilized all of the skills that you learned from these different things to inform your activism?
Of course. Well, what a lot of persons don't realize, and I'm going to just give you a little hint, that marketing and psychology are hand in hand. They're like sisters because they're both sciences. And you have to use a little bit of psychology in order to push your marketing ideas. And so I had to do a little bit of psychology. And on top of that, I would have done some other courses in psychology. And so I use that along with my marketing to talk to young people. So my focus right now would be domestic violence, domestic abuse, education, and young women. And so I do a lot of motivational speeches. I do a lot of work for gender affairs and social development. Ask me where I get the time, I don't know, but I find it. And so that gives me a thrill. It gives me a feeling of accomplishment. So yes, I may have the degrees and the qualifications, but that doesn't give me the same thrill as giving back to my community.
All right, I want us to stick a pin for a moment.
Sure.
Because obviously you are an engaging person, life force. And when I hear you mention speaking to young girls about domestic violence and domestic abuse, I want to be a fly on the wall for a moment and ask you what it is that you say to these young women.
Well, it depends on the forum. For example, I oftentimes try to read my audience. There are times when some of them are not ready to open up, while others are wide. And so a lot of it has to do with active interaction, active communication. They say, I respond, I say, they respond. It makes for a beautiful mix of communication. And so if I'm in a session, for example, and my sessions are, they range from relationships, conflict resolution, the whole gamut. I may ask them, well, you guys are in a relationship? Is anyone here in a relationship? How is that going? Have you ever had an opportunity, a situation where you may be in an argument, it might have gotten heated, he might have pushed you, and one might say, yes, he pushed me. I said, is there anything else he might have done? He may have shouted at you, he may have just slapped you a bit. What's happening there? What happens? Does it escalate? And they will say, yes, it escalates, and I fight him back. And what I find is happening now is that when the woman begins to fight back, or when the young girl begins to fight back, it is now classified as a toxic relationship. Well, in actuality, it's not toxic. It's her defending herself. But because the man is oftentimes very strong, he hits, she hits back. It becomes a fight. She's going to end up getting the worst, of course. But it's now labeled as toxic.
That's interesting to me because I would think that it would have been labeled as toxic before.
No. So they don't want to say it's domestic abuse because the woman is now fighting back. And don't get it wrong, because there are men who are
victims as well.
Are abused as well, where they would have been raised in a family that says, you know what, don't hit a woman. And so the woman is aggressive and she hits him and she pushes him and she curses. Women, you know how we are. We get out the mouth. And so he walks away, or she shoves him and he just takes it. But that's abuse. And so what I find a lot is that we get into arguments as adults, and we don't understand what boundaries are. We don't understand, well, this is not okay. It's not okay to be in your partner's face. It's not okay to push your partner. It's not okay to punch your partner. It's not okay to throw something at your partner. It's not okay. It borders on abuse.
Thank you for allowing me to be a fly on the wall.
Sure.
Let's talk about your involvement in the Project Viola program.
Project Viola. That is near and dear to my heart, because what persons don't often realize, or they don't comprehend, is that it takes two persons to get one person pregnant. And while the male may or may not take responsibility for that pregnancy, the woman has no choice because she shows. And why should she be not allowed to continue her education because she is pregnant? And so the Project Viola provided mentorship. It provided assistance where education is concerned. It allowed for young women who would have gotten pregnant in school to return to school and finish that education. And providing that mentorship, assisting in helping girls to get through that difficult moment. Because again, these are teenage girls. Their bodies are changing. And now they've added another being that changes their body even more. They're going to go through mental stress. They're going to go through a mirror of emotions. And getting them back from going through the birth of a child to returning to school and having to deal with all the other things that happen while returning to school as a teen mother, they need that mentorship, they need that guidance. And so being able to provide that for them was amazing.
I've never really thought of all of the changes that young women would face when they have to go back to school, because you're absolutely right. They've entered a realm of adulthood, and yet they have to revert to the past that they left behind in order to advance better in life. And so you actually expressed that very succinctly for me in a way that's going to resonate. So thank you so much for that.
You're most welcome.
All right, so mind, body, and soul. Motivation for this. I can't wait to hear this.
It's very, very interesting, because when I was approached about the show, I said, Julie, can you do this show? I'm thinking to myself, can I do this show? And I remember having a conversation with my ideal twin, and I call him my ideal twin, and that's Dr. Garfield Alexander. We twin it, because when we sit down and we talk and we throw ideas at each other, it just meshes. And I said, listen, twin, we need to speak. And we sat down and we were throwing ideas, and he says, sis, mind, body, and soul. I said, yo, that's dope. I said, wait a minute. So I can mesh all my topics surrounding your mind, your body, and your soul. Because we know how to feed our bodies. Some of us know how to feed our minds, but a lot of us don't know how to feed our souls. And so I ran with that. I was doing a lot of community work. I was doing a lot of intervention. I was doing a lot of talks. And someone said to me, I think it was him, he said to me, but do you know how much people you can reach by just doing this radio show? I was like, whoa, bling, light bulb. And so I engaged on it. It was interesting. I'm one of those persons who believe that every opportunity that comes my way, take it, try it, do it. You never know what happens when you try. And so this was something very new to me. I tried it.
And I feel like I'm having a talk with my big sister right now. And we're continuing our discussion, of course, on the amazing work that you do. And one of the things that we were talking about before the break was, of course, mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
And I am tempted to ask you about the most interesting and or difficult topic that you've had to cover.
Well, I've covered quite a bit of topics. And I think about 2 weeks ago, I did a topic on the increasing self-harming behaviors in girls and teen kids. That was hard. It was hard because a lot of us don't understand or remember what it feels like to be a teenager. And so we think that these behaviors are foreign and that they're picking it up from TV, but not really. These behaviors have been around a while, and the fact that these behaviors are increasing, the cutting, the self-cutting, the burning, where they burn themselves, how they hide it, what the boys are doing, it's a hard topic because parents don't want to deal with that.
All right, so you talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're alarming me, and I'm glad that you are. No, I'm not. Don't apologize at all, because you're telling me that this is a reality that
It
we
is.
generally don't talk about in the
Correct.
open, and that's important as well.
Yes.
All right, so the takeaway from that, because we're not just talking about the problem, but we're looking to address the problem, because those are symptoms of it.
Correct.
So how did you do that?
All right. So luckily for me, I had a teacher, a school counselor, and someone from Child Protective Services on my show to discuss that, because they're the ones who brought it to me and said to me, Ms. Charles, we are seeing an alarming rise in self-harming behaviors, especially in girls. We would like to talk about it. We want the parents to understand what's happening, what to do, how to do it. A lot of the times when young girls in particular are harming themselves in this manner, it is because they are unable to express the pain and the struggles that they're feeling. And so parents are going to have to be very vigilant in making sure that they provide an environment where children can come and speak to them. All right. I even went so far as to tell them where girls cut themselves, where they burn themselves. You have to, again, as parents, be very vigilant with your children. Don't just assume, oh, he or she, they're moody. Don't take them on. They're going through their hormones. No. Oftentimes, if you are seeing a change in the behavior of your children, something is up. Have that conversation. And whatever you do, my parents, because I'm a parent of an 8-year-old boy, and it's hard. Parenting is hard. They don't tell you this. You have to go through it to know that it's hard. But you have to always have that door open for communication. Always, always. Communication without judgment.
And that's the key, Julie. Communication without judgment.
Without judgment.
Absolutely right. In terms of the reach of your program, because obviously you're on radio, but we have the internet now, you can be heard all over.
All over.
Okay, so let's talk about the reach. Did you have any hopes or aspirations as to, what the audience would be like, how far you would go with your messages?
Not a clue. Like, I didn't even think about it. I just did it. I literally just did it. And what is often strange for me is that most persons recognize my voice before they recognize me, because I'm on radio and on TV. I'm just now going online. And so I would be in the supermarket, for example, talking to my mother, and someone would pull up in the corridor and say, Julie Charles. I'd be like, yeah? And then the new thing for me now is, you're the Julie Charles. I'm like, the? Okay.
It's weird when that happens. Again, I feel like I'm talking to my big sister, literally. This is, yeah, I've got a new sister, guys. Her name is Julie. All right, so notwithstanding all of the community work that you do have a full-time job at the Financial Services Regulatory Commission as financial inspector. So let's talk about that a little bit. What does that role entail?
Boy. So what I would say is Financial Services Regulatory Commission, and that is just at the bottom of the Square, Independence Square. It's an amazing place to work. Love it, love it. Hi guys, I have some really great coworkers. What we do is that we are basically the safety net for AML, CFT, CPF. He's looking at me like, what the?
Okay, that's a new alphabet.
Yes! That's anti-money laundering, that is counterterrorism financing, and that is counting proliferation of weapons. So we are what stands between St. Kitts Davis and the blacklist. So that particular commission, we regulate, we supervise all financial institutions that are non-banks. So the insurances, the credit unions, the money services, the money wirers, the casinos, we do virtual assets, anything that generates financing that is not a bank, we are the regulators and supervisors.
That's a whole lot.
It is a whole lot. It's hard work. It's fun work. So we do both off-site and on-site monitoring. So we can go into an entity and do an examination, ensuring that whatever laws and regulations that govern that particular sector, they are following. We can provide them with guidance. We try to provide them with guidance. We would say, listen, you're not following this particular thing. Here is our recommendation. Here is a deadline for which you need to put it in. And most times persons welcome that. Right? So it's a fun place to be. It really is. And I learn a lot.
All right. And you are also, and you mentioned it before, proud mom of an 8-year-old boy.
Yes.
Let's talk about the way that your motto impacts his upbringing.
All right. My baby, my love, my joy, my Jaden. He was a miracle baby. The doctors told me I probably couldn't have kids. And then, boom, there he came. And so here am I telling persons, how to listen to their children. And now I have to implement what I do or what I say. And one of the things I've done with my son is that I've said to him, Jay, that's his short name, Jay, no matter what it is that you've done or anything naughty, tell me the truth. If you tell me the truth, mommy not gonna get mad, and mommy not gonna punish you. If you tell me a lie, we gonna have it out. And you know what? He actually follows it. If he's naughty, he says, Mommy, I did so and so, and I was naughty. And I said, well, tell me why you were naughty. And he would explain himself to me. And so we have a very, very good bond, a very strong bond. He's the love of my life, really. I'm so gracious. I'm so glad for him.
See, the other thing we have in common, Jays. How are you? Big sister vibes here, definitely so. So what's next for you, Julie? Where do you see the journey taking you? I know that you said, if opportunity comes knocking, you're going to follow it, but you can answer the call. What's next?
Where do I see myself? That's a really good question. I'm not one of those persons who plan things out. I am very spiritual. I am very grounded. And so I pray a lot. I read a lot. And guess what? Whatever is in my spirit is where I go. And that's it.
So no visions, just you're going to be led.
Visions. No visions. All I can tell you is it's up from here.
I love that. You know what? That's great enough for me. That's good enough for me, Julie. Wow. This has been such an engaging conversation. We do need to do this again. All right. So.
All right, little brother.
I love that. Great. There you go.